Hey everyone, welcome to part 2 of this video series where we're mixing a rock song from start to finish. Now if you missed the first part in this series, the link is in the description below. I highly recommend checking that out, where we got the DAW all set up and we got a general level balance of the mix. So today in part 2 we're going to be mixing the drums. I like mixing the drums first, it just makes sense to me, and I like mixing the song around the heart of the song, the beat, the rhythm section. I feel that they normally need the most work as well, whereas things like guitars need less so, and I like making as much progress on a mix as possible as early on. It helps build out that vision of what you want the song to sound like at the end. It's also motivating as well if you're making a lot of progress quickly. So let's do this. How many tracks have we got? We've got one. We've got the ambients, the ambient mics, that's 2 mics, the overheads, the hi-hat, ride, 2 on the snare, 2 toms and 2 kicks. So 12 mics, quite a busy recording, but nothing too out of the ordinary for a rock song. Now, let's have a listen to the drums. Nice and punchy snare, nice punchy kick. At this stage, I'd just be listening to the drums as a whole, thinking, what do I want the drums to sound like? What's wrong? What's right? What do they need? It's always good to get that idea in your head before you get stuck in. Yeah, so they need widening, a general cleanup. We'll try and remove some of the bleed on some of those tracks. Get those cymbals and hi-hats really sizzling, and definitely a bit more oomph in the kick. And with the kick and snare especially, I want to solo the tracks because we've got 2 mics on each of them and I want to see what they're doing. So this is the kick in, the mic inside the kick drum. Okay, it's a little bit woofy, bit flat. So first we're going to crack out that EQ. I'm just going to use the stock one. I just want to show you that you can get a great sound just using free stock plugins. I'm going to roll off a tiny bit off the low end, just that sub bass. Some of that woofy low mid. Can I get rid of any of that snare bleed before using a gate? You can hear that boingy snare around 500. Watch for your output, the output level. You want that to be the same as the input really, so that when you compare the two, when you bypass and compare the unprocessed and the processed signal, you don't get any bias from the increase or decrease in level. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's got rid of the stuff I don't like in there. Yeah, the bleed, the mic was outside the drum, pointing at the beater, so there's a lot of bleed there. It's going to be difficult to gate out, but I might be able to EQ some of that snare, raspy snare out. I don't want to get rid of any clickiness, though, of the beater. There's a lot of snare sound there. And again, some of that low mid. Yeah, we'll see what we can do with that. Let's compress this. I'm going to go for the 1176 clone that comes built in with Pro Tools. So again, a free stop plugin. I'll be hitting it quite hard. Let those transients in. Bring the level down. Now, if you haven't used an 1176 compressor before, the attack and release are very fast no matter what you put it on. So, okay. Now I want some more of that low end. So I'm going to start doing some additive compression here. Some punch around the 50-60 area. What's that kick out mic doing? I want to compress this hard because I just want that clickiness of the beater, but then you're getting a lot of snare out of it. So this might be tricky. Let's try and gate that out first. Yeah, it's not happening. Snare's louder than the kick. But that's okay. It may complement the snare. I can try getting some of the snare out of the kick one, the kick in though. Nice fast gate. You can hear there's not so much snare in there now, but it's still got the punchiness of the kick. Now I'm going to use a bass enhancer, R-Bass. If you don't have a bass enhancement plugin, it's not vital, but it does help just add a little bit more beef to the low end. And that's only enhancing the bass frequencies, so I'm putting that on the bus. That's affecting both kick signals, which means it should enhance the kick and not that snare bleed. I'm gonna add a little bit of clickiness. Yes. It's quite a hard hitting song, so, but again, we'll see what it's like as a whole, the mix as a whole as well. Let's move on to the toms. I'm just going to go for the built-in Pro Tools channel strip here. And cut out some of that sub bass. Give it a bit more punch. Kind of a boxiness in the mid there that I don't want. It's got some nice crack on that top end anyway, so I'm going to leave that for now. See if we can gate out some of this bleed. Cool. Okay. And again for the rack tom. Drummer went very easy on the rack tom. Hard to find one. Oh, that's nice. Okay. very nice. Don't want that compressor hitting it too hard. With drums, generally I'll keep quite a low release so that the compressor has finished doing what it's doing before the next hit. And a little bit of makeup gain. Some compression on that floor tom as well. So those really hard hits, yeah, let's bring that up a bit because there's some really hard hits and some low ones. I want to even that out a little bit. So the quiet hits aren't even being compressed at all there. Okay, let's see what we've got so far. A lot more power on the kick there. Let's have a look at the snare. Get rid of a lot of the low end on the snare. Not so much it's sounding brittle. But enough so it leaves room for the kick and the bass. Start with a nice 4:1 ratio. Not to go too crazy. And gate out those hi-hats. I don't want to go too crazy with the gating on the snare because you start to lose some of the tail. It's kind of a horrible boingy-ness in the mids there. That dong, dong. There it is, yeah, bang on 500. Sweep around, find the frequencies you don't like. Give it a bypass every now and then. To hear the difference. And give it a little bit of meat in the low mids. And a bit of crack up there. But we don't want to forget the snare strings are already being picked up by the other mic, so let's start with the same kind of compression as we've got on the top. I like to add a little bit more low end, more of a low end boost on the bottom snare mic normally. It doesn't have that kind of that boinginess, that boxiness that you get on the standard snare micing usually, and yeah, you can just give it a bit more oomph. And then let's hear it with the other one because obviously they're going to be together. Okay, we'll be coming back to that, of course, throughout the song, throughout the mix, and the overhead and ambient mics have snare in them as well, of course, so that will affect how it sounds. Let's have a look at those overheads, actually. Generally, I keep things panned centrally throughout the mix. Only the overheads and the ambient mics I keep wide. Gonna keep a longer release time on this for the sake of the cymbals. get rid of most of that low end. Don't want kick in the overheads really. And try and get rid of some of the snare as well, because the snare mics do the job better. Faster attack. We're focusing on the cymbals here. Crispy. Hi-hat. Don't really have an awful lot of use for the hi-hat mic, to be honest. It just adds a little bit of extra sheen. Helps it stand out. But normally the overheads do a pretty good job of picking hi-hat up. Okay. Only thing we haven't touched is the ride and the ambient mics. Let's hear that ride. Again, the overheads pick it up nicely. You don't need to go too crazy with this. Where's it gone? Bring it down a little bit. Let's see what these ambient mics are doing. It just gives the drum sound a natural roomy quality, but I tend to compress these quite hard. Keep them in the background. Get the kick out of there mainly. Okay, yeah, it sounds natural. It's just taming that snare. Now let's bring everything in and hear what it sounds like together. We're likely going to have to make a few tweaks. I'm also going to start panning at this stage to give a real impression of how the kit sounds. Hi-hat a little over to the left. I tend to pan from the drummer's perspective, so hi-hat on the left, floor tom on the right, but that's personal preference really. Ride on the right. Nice bit of punch on that. I think a little bit of... It's missing something on the toms. Let's put this through. Some tape simulation. I don't normally use presets, but when it's quite a basic plugin and you just want to quickly get to a certain setting, they can be quite useful. It's just adding a little bit of that kind of simulated harmonic grit to it. That I like. Okay, it's a bit too gated. Okay.
Can you feel me?
A bit more more at the bottom snare. Yeah. A little bit. Try and get some of that snare out the overheads. This is a free plugin, a Revival from Slate. Again, harmonic excitement. It does a similar job to an EQ, to be honest. It just has a nice quality to it. For adding a little bit of top end and low end. I'm liking that kick sound. Snare definitely needs a little something. Not sure what it is yet, but we can come back to it. Cymbals are sizzling. I'm going to slap a multiband compressor on the whole kit. I'm going to just start off with a preset on this, but we're going to reset most of it. This one. You know what the multi-brand compressor does over the standard compression is when you've got everything playing at once, you might have certain frequencies that are building up a little too much. For example, when you've got the low end from the toms and the kick at the same time. So you can say, for example, when the low end reaches a certain threshold, then it can be reduced over the whole kit rather than on an individual basis. I can use it to try and keep that low mid under control. And just keep the levels in check as well. Useful for making general EQ changes across the board as well. Let's get some reverb on this. I've got my plate, my whole set up. I don't want any reverb on the kicks, and I might want to adjust the levels of each individual drum as well, so that's why I'm creating separate instances rather than sending the whole bus through. It's quite nice, but I'm probably going to make some changes as I say as the mix goes on to the reverb sound. But yeah, I'm liking that drum sound. Let's hear what it sounds like in the quieter section. Need to bring that up a little bit, or at least bring the kick down, but that's something we'll be doing at a later stage. Let's hear what it sounds like with everything in. Little level tweak. Now the drum levels have slightly changed.
Can you see me?
It's sounding nice, it's sounding spacious, it's sounding punchy. Again, we're going to be making a lot more changes throughout the mix as we go on, but I do like to get the drums sounding on point before moving on to the rest of the mix. Thank you for watching part 2. We got part 3 coming up soon, where we're going to be moving on to mixing the bass, getting that bass and kick sounding fantastic together. If you have any questions at all about the drum mixing, just leave a comment below and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can catch the next part. I'll see you next time.